Lando Norris bottled the Canadian Grand Prix with a very clumsy, unnecessary crash. In 2024, he was hyped up to be the next world champion, especially by his countrymen in the media. But not everyone was convinced he would. McLaren, the team he drives for, took a preemptive measure to guarantee the title even when Norris fails. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Lando Norris started the Canadian Grand Prix weekend in Montreal with a P7 in free practice 1. He set the second fastest time in FP2 and he was the fastest in FP3. He was running a suspension update to make the car feel less numb. So far, so good. His teammate Oscar Piastri didn't run this update after the free practice sessions because he wanted the car to stay consistent and he has less of a problem with not feeling the car underneath him. Piastri seems to be able to drive the car fast without pushing too much. This upgrade wasn't made to give any extra performance. It's just there if one of the drivers prefers it. I almost forgot to mention that it was Piastri who struggled the most after he had hit the wall of champions in free practice 3 and limped back to the garage. This cost Red Bull driver Yuki Tsunoda a 10-place grid penalty because he overtook the Australian under the red flag that the crash had caused. I have nothing against Piastri, but I thought damaged cars had to park instead of losing bits all around the track. The FIA was in great form this weekend. I'm being sarcastic. More about this later. Both McLaren cars made it into Q3 and it was Piastri who beat Norris after struggling all weekend. That was quite impressive, even if he couldn't beat Verstappen in P2 and Russell on pole. Norris fumbled his first lap in Q3 and made too many errors in the second hot lap and had to start the race from P7. He didn't beat himself up too much after the qualifying and told the media that he had aimed to finish in the top 5 at least. He started the race on hard tires and went long during his first stint. A one-stopper was too much to ask, so he pitted for another set of hards and later for mediums. This put him around 7 seconds away from his title rival and teammate Piastri. He started closing the gap towards the end of the race, and the pair started to squabble with about 7 laps to go. He tried to line up an overtake, but Piastri was just too quick and placed the car very well. After a few laps, Norris dove down the inside and managed to get ahead, but on the straight, with both McLarens having DRS, he couldn't make the overtake stick and slotted in behind Piastri before the chicane. Great late braking by the calm Australian. Then, on the straight that followed, Norris, with the help of the slipstream and DRS, followed closely to then, by everyone's surprise, tried to pass around the outside where there was no space. Well, there was space for a vehicle with 2 wheels, but not for a big Formula 1 car. So Norris drove over the grass, hit Piastri's rear tire with his front wing and smashed into the wall. DNF. Safety car deployed, race over. 0 points. Oscar Piastri extended his lead on Norris by 12 points in a race that didn't go so well for him. This is how you win a championship. What Norris did is how you lose a championship. Maybe even P2 in the championship, as Verstappen is only 21 points behind Norris now. You think McLaren would be devastated by this, but they took it well, like they expected this. Lando Norris received a 5-second penalty for causing a collision. That seems fair enough. If a car doesn't finish, the time penalty becomes a grid drop normally. However, in this case, Norris was classified as a finisher, just 4 laps down, so he didn't really DNF and the time was added, so no grid drop in Austria. Then we found out there were no penalty points given for the incident. What the fuck, FIA? Which is really frigging strange. Imagine if Verstappen had driven into the back of Piastri like that, being on 11 penalty points, and then not being given the penalty point. People would have lost their heads over it. Norris seems to have the right passport. That's all I will say about it. In the interviews after the race, as always, Lando Norris was quick to hold his hand up and take the blame. Well, there was no excuse this time really, but he apologized to Piastri and the team. He spoke to all the media, answered the questions without too much drama. He's now 22 points behind Piastri and Verstappen is now 21 points behind him. The MCL39 seemed to be less of a beast on the Montreal circuit, and I wonder how it'll perform in Austria, which is the next race. For the championship, it would be best if it stays this way. Max Verstappen hunting down Piastri for another 14 races is something that many people would like to see. We have to be honest, the McLaren inter-team fight has been very underwhelming. No politics, no calls for strategies, clean fighting, and now what we all expected would happen, happened, and there was a crash. Not an exciting edge of your seat crash like Ricciardo versus Verstappen in Baku in 2018, but a weird, mindless attempt that only saw one driver DNF. By the way, Jacques Villeneuve said it was a nasty move by Piastri because he edged to the left to block Norris. I honestly don't know where that man always gets his odd views from. Literally nobody sees it that way. The team was very kind to Norris and made a bit of a spectacle about how much they love racing to let their drivers fight it out like that. Let's see what happens if it happens again. So far, what's been happening at McLaren is of their own making. Maybe that's a good thing, but not for Lando Norris. I can't help thinking, what would have happened if Daniel Ricciardo hadn't been let go? Lando Norris was way more comfortable with him in the other seat. This is something I want to discuss. The foresight of Zak Brown to put everything together to grab Piastri away from Alpine to do what he's doing now. Lando Norris is perhaps a bit of a late bloomer, in the sense that he's a very talented driver, but things take a while to come together for him. From scoring a pole position, to a podium, to getting his first win in Miami last season, in his 6th season of the sport. Of course, McLaren came from a dark place. I haven't forgotten about that. And Oscar Piastri did join the Papaya team at a much better moment. Still, I can't shake the feeling that Norris always needs a few attempts before he succeeds, whereas Piastri just grabs the first opportunity and gets it. He won a sprint before Lando Norris won anything. I wonder if Zak Brown and Andrea Stella looked at Norris a few years ago and decided that this was not the guy to build a team around. That's the reason why they gave Piastri the seat and let him develop, just in case their suspicions were right. If they had full faith in Norris, they could have left Ricciardo there and told him to help Norris out as much as possible. Now, I know McLaren has never been the team for number 1 and number 2 drivers, so they needed an improvement on Ricciardo, who was very lost at times at McLaren. I suppose putting a Bottas type driver in there was not their thing. It would have definitely helped Norris to have less pressure. He's a sensitive kid, and McLaren hiring a guy who's already better in his 3rd season has made things worse for him. I'm also of the opinion that Norris wasn't ruthless enough last season when it came to team orders and such. A dominant, headstrong, egoistic driver like Max, Lewis or Fernando would have never in a million years have given up that lead in Hungary. The way Piastri overtook Norris in Italy last year would have been a major row in a team with those 3 drivers I just mentioned, but Norris isn't built that way, so he accepted it and made his teammates stronger. Piastri is the boss now, and he'll handle that much better, I think. That's why you see Lando Norris making these strange moves, and that's why he can't put a great lap together in Q3, all due to the pressure within the team. His race pace is great, faster than Piastri a lot of the time, but then he has to overtake, and there's the Papaya rules he has to think about, and his point deficit, and how the car is not as nice to drive as it was before, and he doesn't know why his teammate can handle it better. All those thoughts are building up in his mind. Add the media and especially social media to the mix, and you get a driver who's the worst wheel-to-wheel driver in a title fight ever. It's like complete head loss if it's not a simple DRS overtake. If it works a bit, it's just not enough to complete the move, and that's when things even get more tense. If he does get it done after 5 or 6 laps, the car in front, usually Piastri, has built such a gap he can't overtake him anymore. There's little chance that Norris will win the title this season. I think that if the gap gets bigger, he'll start to relax a bit and then he'll improve again. McLaren next season, with a Mercedes engine and the platform built by Rob Marshall, will most likely be in the hunt for more titles, and as Norris takes a bit longer to get where he wants to be, he'll get a title then. Or maybe not. Take care now. Doei doei! Strip slim, Piastri used